Here we go, episode 110 of the Hardline Sports Talk. I'm Michael Merlo. That's John Michael Masiri. JM, when I'm going through what we're going to be talking about today, this is up there for one of the bigger episodes we've had in a while. There's a lot. Playoff baseball back.
Yeah,
exciting stuff.
You got a lot of stuff being thrown at you right now. A lot of good, a lot of bad, a lot of sketchy, a lot of fun. Depending on who you are, if you're a Michael Merlo, a lot of bad football-wise. Your favorite team in baseball, their rivals or rival that you hate more than anything, just advanced. And maybe on the bright side, you got one of them's going to lose. They got to lose. The Braves or the Phillies, someone's got to lose here.
Yes.
So that's good. But on the other side of that, one of them's got to advance. So that kind of sucks.
You're going to be very surprised with what I have to say about the Braves and Phillies series when we talk about that in a little bit.
Is this what New York sports has come to, though? It's you don't even root for your own team anymore. You just root against the teams that you don't like.
You'll have more happiness doing that because most of the time your team is going to suck, especially around here.
Right.
And if you're just rooting against your enemies, there's more chances for your enemies to fail.
Yeah, it's a lot easier to hate than to cheer. You know what I mean?
I'm starting to get to that point with my teams that, you know what, let's root against them. Let's root against the enemies.
This is what rock bottom looks like, ladies and gentlemen.
Well, seriously, if I told you in May, okay, Mets and Yankees won't make the playoffs. Okay, the Jets and Giants season essentially are over. It's October 5th.
Yeah.
Okay, and we're starting to look forward to the NBA season already.
Right.
If I told you what's going on, you wouldn't believe me.
Right, and knowing at this rate, I mean, the Knicks, can you even have hope when you see how the other New York teams are doing?
No, you can't.
Should be a good season for the Knicks, but the way things are going, might have to just pack it up.
Pack it in before we even start.
I don't know.
Yeah.
It's just a lot of pain.
We're going to start with the New York Football Giants, though, because, just on the theme of pain, that's what they cause their fans. And not only their fans, but fans of football that say, you know what, I'm going to sit down and I'm going to watch some primetime football tonight. And if you decided to watch primetime football Sunday night week 1 or Thursday night week 3 or Monday night week 4, you were treated to some pretty bad football, at least from one side of the aisle there. So let's discuss. The Giants obviously had an embarrassing loss on Monday night to the Seahawks. Mm-hmm. And, I don't necessarily want to talk about the game in general. It's just kind of where this team is going. What we saw from the game, sure, but where this team is going, because it's not good, and we both have a lot to say about it.
Well, it's certainly not good, and when you look at the Giants' season, this could very well be an 0-4 team. I mean, they have literally played 2 good quarters of football the entire season. You take out those 16.
You take out those 2 quarters, statistically, they have to be the worst offensive team in league history through 4 weeks.
No,
take out those 2 quarters.
The offensive line was a concern coming into this year, but you had some bright spots with Andrew Thomas. You drafted John Michael Schmitz in the 2nd round, hoping that he could be an impact player, which, spoiler alert, he's been pretty bad. And Evan Neal is a guy who we'll get into a little later.
Oh, yeah.
You were expecting to have a better second year, kind of like what we saw with Andrew Thomas, where his rookie season was actually disappointing, and we remember that the Giants caught a lot of criticism for that Andrew Thomas pick because you had those 4 tackles of Becton, Wirfs, Wills, and Thomas coming into that draft, and Thomas certainly was not viewed as the best tackle coming into that draft. However, Giants decided to take him first instead of all those other tackles. Andrew Thomas comes out, has a slow rookie year, starting to rip on the Giants for that pick, and now looking back, probably, unless you want to make an argument for Wirfs, but probably the best tackle coming out of that draft.
I think he's the best tackle.
So you were kind of hoping for the same story with Evan Neal, and it certainly is not looking that way. He actually might be declining from his rookie season, which is
he says he's
pretty
getting
hard
better
to do. Right, which he let his feelings about his performance be known in the media, which certainly, he might as well have taken a shovel and just started digging a hole to bury himself in. But
we'd be better off if he did that.
I don't want to talk too much about the Giants because I know that you're going to have a lot to say, and this is your team, and I can't wait to hear your reaction because, honestly, we haven't talked much since Monday.
We didn't.
And I've been waiting to talk to you in depth about this. But the one thing that I will kind of lead with here is the way that this team has been built and the way that they've gone about things, and I think the GM needs to be put under a lot of fire right now. It's just not trending in the right direction, and you're kind of at a point right now where it's like, oh, crap, where do we go from here?
Yeah, so I'll start with the game in general. Let's talk about the quarterback first. Can we talk about the quarterback first?
Yeah, of course.
I think the quarterback has some excuses here where you could say, well, nobody could survive behind that offensive line, and I think that is true. But, and Dan Orlovsky did a fantastic job breaking this down, where there were some plays and some of the biggest plays Monday night in which the offensive line did not cause the problems Jones caused for himself.
Yep.
The fumble, which led to 7 points right away, and the pick six, obviously, that was not on the offensive line. He had time to stand in there. He threw it right to Witherspoon, pick six. So there are some things that Daniel Jones is not doing. There are some crucial steps that we thought Daniel Jones, or some thought Daniel Jones could take to evolve as a quarterback, and he's not doing that.
Right.
That's problem number one. You could blame it on the offensive line. Sure, part of it's on the offensive line. If you asked me if there was one player that couldn't get hurt this year, who would it be? It was Andrew Thomas. Andrew Thomas couldn't get hurt this year. Otherwise, this year was going to be a completely different story. He gets hurt week one. That's kind of what we saw.
Right.
So I think Thomas being out, and we'll talk about Thomas again in a minute because I have an interesting stat about Thomas. Him going out kind of almost derails the entire offensive line.
Oh, 100%.
But you bring up a good point. The general manager has to be under a microscope here. I want to say this, and this is going to get kind of lost in the shuffle, and it might sound like an excuse. Last year was year one of a rebuild, right?
Yes.
And it went in a different direction. They made the playoffs. They had a soft schedule, and they were able to win a bunch of games, some games that they shouldn't have won,
Yeah.
and they went to the playoffs.
Right.
And they tried to continue to build through this.
Right.
And it's going in the wrong direction, and that's a major, major problem.
Well, that's the thing that you brought up a great point. This team kind of was, I don't know what the word to use exactly here. They were led in the wrong direction. They were deceived by that year last year because overachieved. Like, this was a team where we talked about the Vikings last year with the one-score games and this and that. Giants had a soft schedule. Giants won a lot of one-score games last year and kind of just seemed like a team where you looked at the roster and you were like, this team probably shouldn't be in the playoffs. And that's why Daboll got all the praise. And, credit to him. No matter how you want to slice it, the team made the playoffs with an overachieving roster. So the thing that gets me here, though, with the way that the coaches have handled it, with the GM, you have a new regime coming in after Jones' third year, right? You decline the fifth-year option, which made sense. That made complete sense at the time. It's kind of like, all right, Daniel Jones, go prove yourself. Now, after that, Daniel Jones goes out, 15 touchdowns, 5 picks, nice year on the ground, has 22 total touchdowns or something like that.
Yeah.
And what did we say at the end of last season? We said, me and you have argued about Daniel Jones since this podcast became even a thing and well before that. I mean, the guy's entire career, me and you have gone back and forth. I've said, I don't think the guy's a good quarterback. You've said, give him some weapons around him, let block for the guy. He's a good quarterback. The Giants have messed this up so bad at this point where you give the guy $160 million after he goes out last year and has a simplified offense with no weapons and a mediocre offensive line and no receiving weapons. And then you got Saquon. Okay, good. You give him $40 million after that. Now this year, what do we say all offseason? I need to see Daniel Jones in a more advanced offense now. You have Darren Waller coming in. You got a couple solid guys in free agency with Paris Campbell and blah, blah, blah. Whatever you want to say about that. They drafted Jalen Hyatt. Okay, now it's time to make this offense more complex where a quarterback who makes $40 million a year should be able to run an offense like that.
Right.
Not only has Daniel Jones not been playing well this year, but they haven't made the offense more complex. You look at the stats, they're almost identical in terms of the way he's playing. Now, obviously, the picks are up, the touchdowns are down, but He's not throwing the ball downfield. He's throwing at a high completion percentage because he's not throwing the ball downfield. He has less intended air yards than Desmond Ridder, Zach Wilson, Justin Fields, who's having a hell of a game right now. He's got 3 touchdowns at halftime. Gardner Minshew, guys like that. These are guys who are not $40 million a year guys. He's like a top 10 quarter. I think he's the 8th highest quarterback paid quarterback in the league or something like that. You're paying him all this elite money with not an offense designed for a quarterback who's making that much money. Like a quarterback who makes that much money that you lock up for 4 years to be your franchise guy, you want to elevate your team. Daniel Jones is not elevating this team. And you could give me the excuses with the offensive line and the receivers. They're valid excuses. The guy, his ceiling is capped with all that crap around him. However, now it's like, now what? Now what do we do?
Well,
go ahead.
Here's a couple of quotes from which I can't stand, anonymous coaches, offensive and defensive coaches.
Oh my God, GMs around the league.
So an offensive coach said, I would not want to be playing quarterback for the New York Giants right now. That's what one offensive coach said. A defensive coach said and went in on him. It's very noticeable how little they make him play like an NFL quarterback. He has the easiest reads and the easiest concepts and still does not throw the ball accurately. He doesn't throw to the correct leverage, doesn't throw to the receivers open, doesn't do it.
Yep.
I'm giving you zero opinions here. That's what I see on tape. The coach cited a specific play, a couple of plays in the Arizona game.
Right.
Not getting into all that. We talked about it last year. The offense was basic. And we thought this season, if the offensive line didn't have to be better. It kind of just had to stay the same.
Right.
Maybe get a little better as the season went on.
Right.
But just stay the same because, again, it wasn't great last season, but they were able to scheme around it a bit. Right? Because it wasn't a problem, but it wasn't a solution.
Right.
This season, it's an absolute major problem. There's nothing he could do. He can't get the ball downfield. So, like, those arguments, yeah, I'll give you. But there are times, especially in that Seattle game, where he's just rolling out to the right, rolling out to the left with no pressure in his face. There's guys open, and he is just refusing to throw the ball.
He had problems. You saw a lot of film breakdowns around social media talking about the guy just was not seeing the open receiver or he was not reading the defense pre-snap. He struggled with that immensely. They were throwing a lot of different looks at him, a lot of blind pressures and this and that and trying to deceive him, and it worked. He really was struggling to read the defense pre-snap. The guy I think that deserves the most blame here is Shane. That's how you say it?
Joe Shane.
Joe Shane, the GM for the New York Giants. If I'm a guy who goes into that meeting to get hired, that interview to get hired by the New York Giants, you know what I'm looking at everybody in the face and saying, listen, you want to hire me? I'll tell you what I'm going to do. This team has been awful for years, ever since the boat picture, right?
Yeah.
Team has been terrible. I know you guys like Saquon Barkley. He's a fan favorite. He was a high pick. You got this guy, Daniel Jones. I'm coming in, and I'm blowing it up, and I'm starting fresh. I'm getting myself my own quarterback. I'm getting myself my own weapons. Saquon can walk. But instead, they take this quarterback who was, through 3 years, you're trying to see something from the guy and hope that you could prove that Gettleman's pick was right. Who cares about it? You have no connection to the guy. Get rid of Daniel Jones because the guy's going into a contract year. If I'm a GM, I want to have as little money on the table as possible to build this team up. Instead, they roll with Daniel Jones. He has a solid year. That was... If you want to tell me, JM, what were they supposed to do? They had to sign Daniel Jones. What were they going to let him do? Just walk away in free agency and then sign some random guy or trade up and draft a quarterback? Sure, maybe I can understand that point. But to give the guy $40 million at the time was crazy. Now looking back in hindsight is even crazier when he came off 22 total touchdowns last year and won a playoff game against the overrated Vikings. I mean, $40 million is absolutely wild. I'm sorry.
Yeah, it's easy to play Monday morning quarterback. I know this was your feeling then, and it's still your feeling now. I think they were stuck. Listen, I think rolling with Jones and rolling with Barkley last season, like obviously that's what you were going to do. My question is, and I love the guy, and I still think all through this, Brian Daboll should be the coach of the team. I do have some issues, and I'll get to them in a second with him. But for the most part, I think Daboll is the guy still. Yeah. But my problem is, okay, and you see how frustrated he is with him on the sideline. We see an anonymous defensive coach say, well, these are just basic concepts,
yep.
and he can't do the little things. If Brian Daboll is this offensive genius that everybody says he is, everybody, it's universal. I haven't heard a bad thing about the guy, okay? Since the Giants hired him, you haven't heard a bad thing, okay? So that is definitely very telling. If he's this offensive genius and a random defensive coach is putting on the tape and seeing this, how does the coach sign off on giving this guy all this money? And I understand.
That's a phenomenal point.
And I understand they can get out of the deal in 2 years. It's not ideal, but they can get out of it. Right? They'll have a little dead money.
Yep.
But they could get out of the deal in 2 years.
They can get out of the deal in 2 years. Now, it's not going to be like exactly,
how you want it.
Super easy to just get out of the deal. A release in that situation is a little sketchy. Honestly, if I'm the Giants, I'm getting on the phones this offseason and trying to trade away Daniel Jones. Depending on what your record is, if this team has a top 5 pick this year, I'm doing whatever I can to just get rid of Daniel Jones and draft my next quarterback in an absolutely loaded quarterback class this year. One that we haven't seen since maybe 2018, and it might actually be better than that 2018 class coming in.
By the way, so am I. I am 100% drafting a quarterback.
You gotta. And like I said, the reset button had to be hit. Now they're gonna hit it a little too late. It sucks, but it's just a matter of the fact. I do agree that my point with Daboll is, I know you told me over the offseason, you were like, oh, I love Daboll. He's the guy. And I'd say like, oh, you said this about Joe Judge and this and that. I still, first of all, I don't want to say like I was right, but like, you can't just judge a head coach after the first season. I do think that he should be the coach for the Giants, though. My point to support that is, what other coach would be able to do bring this team to another playoff appearance this year? I think when you have a team that overachieves like that last year, just to get to that point, to get to the playoffs is amazing. To be able to sustain that overachieving for multiple years is basically impossible. I mean, I don't know.
A more difficult schedule.
I don't know what other coach would be able to do that. I don't want to spend too much time on them. I think we should get into the Evan Neal stuff now, because that was the last thing that I'll say is shame on Joe Schoen for thinking that an aging, injury-prone Darren Waller and these average receivers he got in free agency were going to, and Brian Daboll and whoever else was all in on this, to thinking that this would improve Daniel Jones, this would improve this offense in a drastic way and make them an offense that could sustain drives and outplay this offensive line and this and that. Shame on them for thinking that that was actually going to work. I mean, come on.
The Waller thing, I think Waller, it was a 3rd-round pick that they had gotten for Tony. I'm not going to get on that. It's
not a matter of what did they give up. It's a matter of how much leverage or how much eggs did they put in the Darren Waller basket on their behalf of thinking this is enough. We have enough now where Daniel Jones can elevate into that $40 million quarterback.
I wouldn't say that.
Darren Waller was not the piece to do that.
I wasn't. So you're saying don't bring in Waller, or are you saying
I'm saying
this
cool,
is
you
enough?
brought in Waller.
I don't
sure,
think
if you want to bring in Waller, okay, but to have him as your number one option and the guy you're going to build your offense around in terms of your weapons, awful. That's terrible.
I don't think they thought they had the weapons figured out. I think they brought in weapons. They didn't have much money to spend. They did what they had to do with the resources they had.
But Waller's not even being used. Like, he's barely being used.
JM, why not double cover him? They're putting 2 guys on him at all times.
But there's no double coverage even necessary, because these guys aren't running routes more than 15 yards downfield.
Well, yeah, and there's no time to get the guys the ball.
Exactly. Everything is just a mess. Neal is awful. Schmitz is awful.
Schmitz is not awful.
Schmitz has been pretty bad.
Schmitz hasn't been that bad.
Lemieux is like maybe the worst offensive lineman in the league. He's been absolutely terrible.
Glowinski's terrible.
They're awful. It's honestly the worst offensive line we've seen in the past couple of years so far. So far at this point in the season, if they play at this pace, might be the worst offensive line we've seen in 5 or 10 years.
46% of the time Jones drops back, he's pressured. I think it's
ridiculous.
82 pressures on dropbacks this season. I'm pretty sure, just for comparison, Tua has been pressured in the teens this season, and most of them, more than half of them, came against Buffalo.
And that's with this whole quick dump off, short route kind of offense. He's still getting pressured 46% of the time.
Pro Football Focus did a wins above replacement for linemen last year.
-17 for the Giants.
Andrew Thomas was rated the most valuable lineman or tackle, one of the two. But either way, it should same thing. valuable lineman in the sport last year. That's how important he is to this offensive line. That's how important he is to this team, and we've just seen it crumble. Quickly, before we get to Neal for a second, Colin Cowherd, my boy Colin Cowherd of Fox Sports, thinks Brian Daboll should resign.
Yeah, see, that's
Colin
Cowherd. That's why Colin Cowherd is not my boy, because he makes these ridiculous claims.
He should take the Charger job when it becomes available. By the way,
hold
on.
That is not an awful idea, but
it's not an awful idea.
If you could get out of that and go to another team, I would 100% do that.
I don't think it's a bad idea at all.
No.
That's the job Daboll wanted. He was friends with the GM, Telesco, and this is according to Cowherd. For whatever reason, Spanos didn't want to pay the amount of money it would have cost to get him.
Yeah, get Brandon Staley, genius.
They went with Staley instead, but I remember he interviewed for that job, and I remember hearing he wanted that job.
He's got to be actively trying to lose his job, Brandon Staley. 2 games in a row going for it on fourth down in your own territory like that, and it didn't work again.
He's a problem. All right, let's talk about Evan Neal very quickly because we already spent a ton of time with the Giants. Evan Neal is a clown, okay? You don't win battles going against the fans, especially in this town. The biggest thing I had a problem with was the fair weather fan thing.
Yeah, I agree with that. Yeah, that was really bad.
Because before he got here, right, the Giants were statistically the worst team in football for since they won the Super Bowl. Yeah. They were worse than the Browns. They were worse than the Jets. They were worse than everybody. Okay, and these fans have stuck through it. I was at the game on Monday night. You know how long it took me to get home back to Nassau County? It took 3 hours. You know how much it costs to get in the building? Mm-hmm. A lot. Mm-hmm. Don't call us fair weather fans.
And don't tell me that stadium was not jumping before the Giants went downhill.
It was crazy. Yeah. You texted me. You're like, wow, the energy seems real great in there. I was like, it was loud. Yep. A turnstile does a better job than Evan Neal right now. Okay, That's just for comparison. He's terrible. You're not improving. Shut your damn mouth and try your best to improve.
It's such a tone deaf comment, and as soon as I saw it, I'm like, oh my god, what is this guy doing? Like, you are number one, performing awful. Number two, you are a high draft pick with high expectations in New York, which already makes people be bigger criticizers of you. And number three, you cannot go at the fans and expect to win that battle, dude. Like, it's back to the other point. When you're playing that bad, especially, it's not going to work out for you. And by the way, to say that, we can't go into a rant here because I think Don LaGreca just outdid everybody, and no one's ever going to top that. The only thing I'll say is when I read that comment about the flipping burgers and stuff, I was like, that's hilarious because this dude's probably going to be flipping burgers in about a year if he doesn't start playing better. To
degrade people like that, who the hell are you? It does not make any sense.
These people going that's what I don't . I am on the side of the players a lot in these instances when they have issues with fans because we know that fans treat these guys like they're not human sometimes, and they say things to them and throw things and all this ridiculous stuff, and you're always like, dude, this isn't the circus. These are human beings that are playing the game. In this instance, you wouldn't exist if the fans didn't exist.
We pay
all
your
of this to play your kid's game, the fans pay that salary. If it wasn't for them, you have nothing. Yep. So don't come out here and call them fair weather and this and that. And, they're booing the team. What do you want? You want to be down 24-3, giving up 11 sacks and just woo! Yeah, go Giants. I wouldn't want to play somewhere if I was an athlete and they were doing that.
Did he think that performance was worth a cheer?
Yeah.
He wouldn't want to sit there in silence.
Evan, try harder, Evan. Come on, you could do it. You could do it.
That only works in Philadelphia for one night, and it really worked.
Yeah.
It worked with Trey Turner.
Yep.
It ain't gonna work with you, buddy. God is the only person that can save you.
Yep.
All right, Bengals very quickly. They got some problems, Jam.
Dude, they have some big problems.
First off, with your gambling show, be out this weekend. 2.5-point favorites in Arizona this week.
Kind of crazy.
That is, first of all, embarrassing. And second of all, absolutely crazy. This injury to Burrow's calf is really taking a toll on just the way they're able to call plays, the way they have to call plays. Yep. He looks like Daniel Jones. He cannot throw the ball downfield more than 20 yards.
Nope.
It's a serious problem. Now they're without T. Higgins. And by the way, Jamar Chase, I know I'm throwing a lot at you. Jamar Chase got to shut his damn mouth. I mean, does this what we want to hear after a 27-3 loss? Oh, I'm always open. I'm always open.
It's very funny how receivers just turn on their quarterback so quickly.
Yeah.
But you're looking at that game against Tennessee. The guy's getting killed. Oh, my God. It's a constantly. Al-Shaair got in the background in 2 different instances and freaking almost ripped his arm off his body. Yeah. I mean, he's getting absolutely destroyed. And it's on the offensive line. It's on the receivers. But it's on Joe Burrow, too. He's not making good decisions out there. He's holding onto the ball too long. It really doesn't look good. Higgins is hurt now. The offensive line ain't getting any better. I'm really like, I know some teams go through slow starts in the beginning of the year, and there's always a team that seems to come back in the second half. And the Bengals have had some slow starts in their past. Not like this, though. They have not looked like this in the past, and I'm really starting to think that this team might have a losing season here. I mean, it is bad. Let's not forget, I know Joe Burrow was a rookie, and, a lot of rookie quarterbacks, it's very hard to get to the playoffs. But let's not forget, his rookie year, this Bengals team was really, really bad, and they had that same problem where the offensive line was awful, and it ended up getting Burrow hurt. And Burrow's already dealing with a calf injury. Who's to say that he doesn't get hurt soon? I would hate to see the guy get hurt, but when he's getting popped constantly like that, it's only a matter of time.
And by the way, Burrow, this is not the first time he's dealt with injuries with this calf. That's got to be a concern. When we rank the quarterbacks, we like to do that in the offseason and even during the season where we'd rather this guy. Injuries are a concern with this guy, unfortunately.
100%.
It's slowed him down a little bit. It's slowing him down here. It's going to be a waste of a season in which it's a problem because you don't have a very rich owner that is willing to eat so much cash. The amount of money that Woody Johnson is taking on cash-wise, it doesn't go against the cap, but he has to pay. It's an exorbitant amount. The rich owners are able to do this.
Yep.
This guy is not one of those owners. So you're really dealing with a small window here where now they're really going to have to rely on draft picks and unproven guys because we're going to see T. Higgins go. We're going to see other guys have to be let go soon when they're due for contracts because you got so much money tied up to the quarterback, to other positions. It's a serious problem they have because the window's closing for them.
This division is reminding me of the AFC West last year where we talked about it in the offseason. We weren't predicting it, but we weren't shutting down the possibility of finally getting that all 4 teams make the playoffs in a division. I mean, this was a division where I think me and you basically predicted every team to have a winning record. Mm-hmm. And right now, it's looking like the Bengals are headed down a dark road. The Steelers are headed down a real dark road. I mean, they look awful. The Browns better hold on to second place here, or else the Ravens are just going to run away with this division. Like, the Browns better hold on to this defense and hope that Deshaun Watson starts playing better because pretty soon we might see only one playoff team out of this division.
I actually like the Browns. I think I'm higher on the Browns than most people are. I think this defense is for real. I think Deshaun, he's not the same guy clearly, but he's going to figure it out, and I think this team can go far. The offensive line's good. We've talked about them. I'm a believer in the Browns. I think they're going to get in, especially, look, we're seeing teams drop like flies. The Jets obviously are not the same without Aaron Rodgers. We're going to get to them in a little bit. They may be a team that probably falls out of that playoff, picture before the season, what we thought it would look like. The Bengals are falling out of that. For me, the Steelers were a team I thought. I definitely don't think the Steelers are in there. So I think the Browns could kind of sneak in here.
Well, we didn't think that the Browns were going to win the Super Bowl when they had Baker Mayfield, but they made a playoff, not run, but they won a playoff game. So if Deshaun Watson can play to the level that Baker Mayfield did, I know it's not the same exact roster, but there's a lot of pieces still there that were there for that team that went to the playoffs a couple of years ago for the Browns. So if he can play to that level of, let's say he throws, 25 touchdowns, only turns the ball over about half of that this year, this could certainly be a playoff team with that defense.
Let's talk about a couple of teams here that didn't have the same expectations as the Bengals or even the Browns or anybody in that division, really. That's the Colts and the Texans. I don't want to toot my own.
Yeah.
I don't want to toot my own horn here. I did in the prediction show. I'm pretty sure I was a little higher on the Texans than a few people were. Not to the point where I thought, they might compete for a playoff spot. But
yeah. I'll give you credit, but at the same time, you're gutless.
Why am I gutless?
Because it was like listen, I'm not saying the Texans are going to be great, but don't be surprised. But they're not going to be great, but don't be surprised.
What am I supposed to say?
That's kind of what you said. Either be all in or all out. All right.
I didn't think they were going to be a playoff team, but better than people thought.
You're accepting all the roses here, and you didn't really.
It's okay. I'm gonna really burn myself in this next topic.
No, okay, but They're both legit. I think they're both legit. I think that the Texans, I can't wait for the 3-pick segment because I'm starting to really like the Texans here, and this Falcons team's a little sketchy right now, and Desmond Ritter's playing some gross football, and you're probably, the public's all over the Texans, blah, blah, blah. CJ Stroud is having one of the best rookie seasons we've seen out of a quarterback in a really long time. Justin Herbert had a great year. You could make the argument that Stroud right now is on a better path than Herbert. I mean, the guy hasn't thrown a pick yet. Wow. He's setting some serious. I mean, he's setting some serious records right now without turning the ball over already. And Anthony Richardson on the other side of town, he's had a hiccup with his concussion, and he's struggling a little with his completion percentage, but these are things that are totally okay as a rookie to be struggling with. Like little things like that, like completion percentage, efficiency, stuff like that. That's fine. You see the arm talent. You see the way he's able to create with his legs, able to design runs to him, and he does a great job with that. He's a great runner. And one thing I'd say, too, I'm not saying that Anthony Richardson is going to improve his completion percentage drastically and become this 65 to 70% guy. That's okay. Cam Newton is a great comp for Anthony Richardson and was the comp when he was coming into the NFL. Cam Newton's got a career like 59% completion percentage. So if Anthony Richardson becomes Cam Newton, that's completely okay. That's what you expect with the kind of arm talent that he is, the kind of talent that he is with his legs. I think these guys are both legit, and I think that the AFC South all of a sudden now is going to have some loaded guys here. Yeah. Some loaded quarterbacks in the future.
Loaded for sure at the quarterback position. Young guys. I'll start Stroud. First off, listen, I like Tank Dell. I like Nico Collins. Yep. These aren't insanely talented receivers, and he is elevating their play.
Right.
He's making those guys better. Talk about the run game. They've had no run game this season. Pierce has been a bust so far. I don't think he's broke 200 yards rushing yet this season. And the offensive line has been incredibly banged up and just haven't played well.
Singletary's making no impact. Dalton Schultz is not making an impact. You would, if you read all these things, you'd say, "Oh, Texans are having a even worse season than we expected." But
the quarterback is elevating this team. The coaching, Debacle Ryans. I think we both really like Debacle Ryans, especially for this team. Made sense. Debacle Ryans chose the Texans over the Broncos and other teams as well.
Homecoming for him, always a big thing.
Yeah, so this really does look great for the Texans. And on the other side, I mean, you kind of knocked it out of the park there with Richardson. I think the coaching has so much to do with it in Shane Steichen. I'm very impressed with what Steichen's been able to do so far with this kid. And, last week against the Rams, I know you had them as your 3-star last week. They were dead in that game.
Oh, absolutely.
And they that second half from a rookie coming off an injury against a team that was outplaying them, thoroughly outplaying them. That's very impressive for him to do what he did in that second half. Been very impressed with Richardson this year. His legs are a major weapon. And again, if things aren't going right, throwing the ball, he always has that weapon to just go and run. And he is an athlete, a fantastic one. So, yeah, it looks like both of these teams hit on their quarterbacks. Bryce Young, on the other hand, he has not been good. We're not going to get too much into Bryce Young here, but shout out to the AFC South because
let's see what they look like with Taylor now, too.
Yeah,
that's going to be really interesting.
That run game, obviously not comparing the two, but the offensive lines are different. But look at what Shane Steichen came from. You had a quarterback that was, a great runner with Jalen Hurts and the Eagles, and you're adding, one of the best running backs in football now to go with Anthony Richardson.
And a lot of people say the same things about Richardson that they do about Hurts in terms of the character and the, being a great leader.
Both of these guys.
Everybody loves him and this and that. So
Richardson and Stroud.
Yeah, and Stroud. Yep.
I read something. Stroud has guys over every night or something like that, or at least a few times a week for dinner for his personal chef, and they hang out. They love these guys, and that's just as important.
I think Khalil Herbert just shattered his knee.
Oh no!
So that's fun. But
we're recording in the middle of Thursday Night Football right now.
Tough look.
We're not. Obviously every game matters, but Commanders Bears, it's a little low on the
really
totem
weird
pole.
game right now, though. 27-11 is definitely not what I was expecting to see, but you got a whole lot of football left.
Good for the Bears. Bears haven't won a game since Elon Musk bought Twitter, so Good. They need it, dude. It's true. They need it, man.
That's insane.
They haven't won
That's
since.
actually wild.
They haven't won. Do you remember the game last year? It was Bears-Patriots, Monday Night Football.
Oh, my God,
They haven't
yes.
won since that game.
They were off to a good start, the Bears.
Yeah, well, they haven't won.
Remember that Giants game? Like, that was like, the Giants, like, all of a sudden we got the Bears now. That's kind of not what we expected to have that feeling. When
generational hater of the Bears. I didn't
Well,
think
yeah,
that was a game.
we weren't worried.
I wasn't really worried about that. All right, let's talk about some team I would be worried about if I had to face them. Okay, and give me a minute. I need to eat my crow. That's the statement. That's the terminology,
Yep.
right? I'll look into the camera. Hopefully we could clip this. I was dead wrong about the Buffalo Bills. Mm-hmm. Not going into last week because I actually thought they'd beat the Dolphins. Just in general about the Buffalo Bills.
Yeah.
This is an elite team. Gun to my head, who wins the Super Bowl? The Buffalo Bills. Gun to my head, who's the MVP of the league right now? Josh Allen. I was wrong. And they may be getting Von Miller back this week. Now, going to London this week, I might not like them against the spread. We'll get to that a little bit. But this, to me, is the best team, one of the more complete teams in football. I think the best team in the AFC right now. I just couldn't be more wrong. The offensive line is playing decently well, about middle of the pack thus far. There's a run game that doesn't involve Josh Allen. The last 3 weeks, we've seen Josh Allen play like we all thought he can play. He's not turning the ball over. He's not trying to do too much. And when he plays like that, JM, he is undoubtedly the second best quarterback in the league.
Yep.
It's the guy we all thought he could be if he just didn't make the stupid mistakes.
That's the thing with him is we always say he's so good, but then he has these games like he had against the Jets in week 1, and all of a sudden he looks like he's just, oh my God, a ticking time bomb with the football in his hand. So we'll see how it goes on when they get to the playoffs and in those playoff games. If he could just stay that superhero Josh Allen, this is a team that can win the Super Bowl. Now, I am going to toot my own horn a little here. Maybe not toot my own horn, but just say that all the concerns that I've had about the Miami Dolphins came to fruition in that game against the Bills. This defense for Miami had not been tested too hard yet. The one time they were tested was against Los Angeles. They gave up 34 points, but that kind of got put to bed because they ended up winning the game and making a game-winning play at the end. Still gave up 34 points, though. That defense got exposed on Sunday against the Bills. It did not look good at all. They gave up 48 points. It looked like the Bills might put up 70 at one point.
Yeah.
And the one thing that you can make an excuse for this team is no Jalen Ramsey. But sorry, we knew that for a while. Like, this isn't a Jalen Ramsey got hurt in week 2. Like, Jalen Ramsey, we knew he was going to be out before the season started, and the Dolphins couldn't do much about it. It was kind of late in the offseason, and it's like, all right, well, we got to just deal with it.
Yeah.
But the defense is a concern, and they finally got exposed the other day, and I think that this offense is still amazing. It'll still win them tons of games. But if you want to go and beat Kansas City, most likely on the road, and beat Buffalo, most likely on the road, and some of these big powerhouse juggernaut-esque teams in the AFC, you're going to need to play defense. And I know Ramsey will be back at that point, but is it even going to matter when you look at the rest of this defense?
I talk about spots a lot, like where are these teams in terms of the teams they've played, the games prior. And this just felt like a great spot for Buffalo. Yeah. They had that terrible week 1. The last 2 weeks they had played great. And this was a big-time prove-it game against a team that, frankly, the entire league was talking about. They were the hot team, and nobody could stop them. And they just scored 70 points in a single game. Yep. So I thought this was a good spot for Buffalo to kind of punch them in the mouth a little bit, say, hey, guys, we still own this division. This is still, our AFC East. The one thing you're 100% right about, defense got exposed. Yeah, it's a little bit concerning. I'm not going to read too much into it. They're going to have a nice week this week. But I'm still not too worried about that defense thus far. The one thing I do want to say, offensively, Sean McDermott, for the most part, has Tua's number. He knows how to play Tua, and he did it again on Sunday. And That was I mean,
He's a
obviously
great defensive coach.
Bill's scoring was the difference, but that was also the difference, shutting him down, not letting them go touchdown for touchdown.
The one thing I want to say is I know as being in media and what you see all around in terms of sports talk about football, whatever sport, I think especially in football, because there's such little games, there's only 17 games in a regular season, we try to, after every week, sort of come up with an ultimatum for every team and say, oh, this team's going to the Super Bowl. Oh, that team sucks, this and that. Look at the Dolphins. Just look at the Dolphins. We're going to go. It happened last year. The Dolphins were up. They were down. They were back up. They were back down. Going along that path so far where 3 weeks into the season, we were saying this is the Super Bowl favorite maybe. I mean, you were saying that. I wasn't saying that, but a lot of people were saying that. Now, defense just got exposed. Is this team going to, the division's over. This is the Bills' division and this and that. Like, let's just remember, we're 25% through the season so far. A lot of football left to be played. Not every game needs to be a set in stone. This is what this team's identity is, blah, 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 blah.
Offensively, I think they're very impressive because they're able to run the ball. They could run the ball. It's not just, let's get the ball to Waddle and Hill. It's not just that. So I think offensively, I'm very impressed with them. Defensively, listen, you're right. And there's a clear difference defensively when looking at a team like the Buffalo Bills, when looking at a team even like the Kansas City Chiefs. They're able to play defense. They're very fast on that side of the ball. Miami got a couple of dudes, but you don't really fear them on defense. Now, again, with the way they're able to score, it might be enough, but on the road in the cold in January, that may be a little tough. So we'll see how that plays out. I'm still a believer. I'm still not. I think I had them 5 in my power rankings. I'm still not down
I had
on them.
6, I believe.
I like Miami a lot, but Buffalo right now, I mean, they
look great.
That was
really
impressive. Okay, let's move on here. We're going to talk about your New York Jets. Impressed with what Zach did. Everybody was impressed with what Zach did Sunday night against the Chiefs. Outplayed Patrick Mahomes, and it was the first time anybody has
played.
What was this?
Outplayed. It was like first time anybody's ever had more passing yards, more touchdowns,
higher
passer rating, completion percentage, all that stuff in Patrick Mahomes' career, even going back to college.
Yeah.
So to say that it was be Zach Wilson is crazy to think about.
And to say he still won the game.
Yeah, exactly. So, I mean, I could sit here all night and talk about, the holding call at the end and this and that, and what's the point of even talking about those penalties? It is what it is. I think the biggest story here, obviously, is the way Zach Wilson played and the fact that was the best game of his career.
Was it the best game of his career?
I know you could bring me up statistics and this and that. I'm telling you, from watching this guy for over 2 years now, that was the best I've ever seen him throw football. He had a nice game against Tennessee his rookie year. He had a nice game against Tampa Bay his rookie year. That was the best game I've ever seen out of Zach Wilson. He was finally in sync with this offense, and it looked like this team had an offensive identity. They were running that West Coast offense. Zach was going through his progressions. He was taking a couple steps back, hitching, and then throwing the ball in perfect fluidity. It was just a great thing to see, and he had some really impressive throws. I mean, that throw to Lazard for the touchdown was a matter of seconds, milliseconds and inches. It was just right on a dime. So he played great, and honestly, feeling very good going into Denver now, where this is, a team that you beat last year. Breece Hall, they just said that they took him off the pitch count, and this is a team where Breece Hall was on track to have his best year of his career so far last year with that 70-yard touchdown. He ended up tearing his ACL in Denver, so he gets the pitch count lifted off of him in Denver. There's a lot of, obviously the Nathaniel Hackett, Sean Payton storyline is something that has been driven up this year, so it's going to be a good game, and one that the Jets should win. This is a game that the Broncos look awful, and yeah, sure, they finally got their win last week against the Bears in a hilarious game, but if you want to go back to Philly 1-4, you got problems, my friends. And I know that we've tampered our expectations for the Jets here as a playoff team, but
that game's next Sunday.
Let's still,
Really?
Yep. We're going
to the game next Sunday.
Sunday.
That's right. Giants Buffalo. Right.
Yep.
That's Sunday nighter.
Which, by the way, I know we talked about a couple weeks ago the whole take the Jets off primetime.
Please
take the freaking Giants off of primetime, please.
For the love of God.
The Jets have been great on primetime, honestly. There are two games this year that they were close with. They beat Buffalo and they almost beat Kansas City in primetime. But the Giants, I mean, oh my God.
They got to.
If I'm a Giants fan, just even sure, it's fun to watch your team in primetime. It's cool, but stop getting embarrassed on national television. Take us off primetime, please.
They have to move this game. They're able to flex. They don't flex many games early in the season. You only see a couple. This is a game I really believe they have to flex, especially if they come out and get blown out by Miami, which I think they're going to on Sunday.
Yep.
They have to flex the Giants out of this Buffalo game. I don't know who you put, but anybody.
I don't know, but they haven't done it yet, and it's complicated. Moving from a 1 o'clock or a 4 o'clock to an 8 o'clock start that's a big jump.
Yeah, it is. If they do it now, though, it's fine.
Yeah.
But the networks get involved, and there's games
game getting sketchy. By the way,
is it really? Good.
Yeah, they're in the red zone right now.
Let's go, Brian Robinson. What was I going to say about the Jets? Yeah, please move them off of that game, please, for the love of God. The Jets, they just moved. They didn't really have to do anything, but next week. The Jets-Eagles was supposed to be America's game at 4:25, and it's really nothing. They just have to switch the broadcast team. So it's not.
Yeah, who cares?
It's not Burkhardt.
Can we stop giving Tony Romo all the big games? By the way, I'm really done with him.
Yeah, Romo's got some problems.
He's annoying the crap out of me.
You know what's? No, I'm not gonna say it.
No, okay.
No. I'm not gonna say it.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm very excited to see. I'm very excited to see this. This storyline though, with Peyton and Hackett
and Sean Payton. I mean, the guy's made an absolute ass out of himself so far. I mean, he's lucky they won that game last week, but to all the hype around it and saying, he's going to come in and he's made all these changes with Russ and this and that, and the team looks worse than they did last year. I mean, the defense is horrendous.
No, yeah,
this was a defense that was top 5 last year, and it's awful.
This is what I wanted to say, because Russ really isn't a problem. The offense has been good. It's not. It's not an offensive issue this year.
Yeah.
It is strictly on the defense, and it's just absolutely shocking that a defense, like you mentioned, was very good last season. They covered a lot of spreads because of that defense last year. They were good. Yep. And to be historically bad to start this season is a major surprise.
Khalil Herbert is trying to get back in the game. I have chills right now.
My God.
This is
chills. So he didn't tear his knee up, as you reported
I don't think
before.
So.
Thank God.
What's Football Doc saying? You follow that guy?
Yeah,
Pro Football Doc.
Yeah, he was good when Rodgers.
By the way, can we talk very quickly about that Jamal Adams thing the other day?
Oh yeah, please.
First
I saw it live. I saw it happen.
Nobody is a more generational Jamal Adams hater than I am.
Yeah,
for obvious reasons. I mean, look,
sure,
yeah. The relationship didn't end very well with the Jets. I will say, I felt bad for the dude that he finally comes back and gets hurt in his first game back. That sucks. But he's screaming. He just issued an apology on Twitter today to be screaming at a neurologist for evaluating you for a concussion and taking you out of the game because you were stumbling all over the field. I mean, what do we do?
It was bad. I saw it happen. It was right in front of where I was sitting. And just not a good look for him. We obviously know he's, a character.
Yeah.
He's very
Can he stop
outspoken.
calling himself Prez?
Does he still do that?
Yeah.
Good, please, yeah.
No,
I get it. He was emotional. It was his first game back in a very long time. But, you got to chill out. The doctor is just doing his job. He's trying to keep you safe. And you're
Jamal.
sitting here
Knock it off.
Screaming at the guy. I will say this, as he was, because literally we were right under where the Seahawks come out of the tunnel. People were screaming at him as he was walking off the field, and I may have been one of them. And
what about heckling him about the Jets and everything?
No, just heckling him, period.
Right.
He's kind of hurt walking off the field.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
You joined in?
I hate Jamal Adams.
Scumbag Michael Merlo. Me, personally, I would never do something that.
Yeah, Jamal
absolute
Adams,
scum of the earth right here.
Walking off the field. I hate Jamal Adams. I'm like a Jets fan.
For someone who makes fun of Philadelphia fans and says they're classless and this and that, that's a Philly move right there. That's a Philly move.
You got to, hold on. Okay, we need to differentiate a little bit. I respect the Philadelphia fan.
Oh, give me a break.
Their passion is truly unmatched.
Pathetic. This is a pathetic little soliloquy you're giving us right now.
But they are scum of the earth garbage. But I respect the passion that they have.
I
really
respect
do.
you, but I just called you scum of the earth garbage.
Yes.
Probably the most disrespectful thing you could say.
Basically.
But you respect them.
Very jealous of them right now.
That's a nice oxymoron.
Couldn't be more jealous of the fans of Philadelphia
really,
right now.
like, how do they... It's I would kill for my football team to be 4-0, and I'm about to play my division rival in the NLDS right now.
Which you beat last year, beat in the regular season to look good against, and I believe, and we're going to get to them in a second, I believe are going to win that series.
And they could wow, whoa, yeah, we will talk about that later. Wow, okay.
We will. Very quickly, Cowboys 40. Oh, by the way, we're going to talk about the Jets-Broncos in the pick segment.
I don't know if that's good or bad.
Cowboys 49ers, game of the year?
Game of the year.
To date?
To date, yes. Bills Dolphins was the other one,
yes, this
but
is a better game.
It's a divisional game. And, you see it all the time. This is a matchup of two teams who are 1-2 for the first 3 weeks. We bumped the Cowboys down in our power rankings after that Commanders loss, but really, talent-wise, maybe 1-2 in the NFL when you look at these rosters. And teams that have a lot of history recently, the Niners have owned them. They've sent them home 2 years in a row in the playoffs. So it's going to be really fun. I kind of wish it was in Jerry's World, though. It would have been cool if it was in Dallas, but it's in San Francisco. And shocked that San Francisco has had, 3 home games in a row now?
Have they? Yes, they have.
I believe so. They had the Giants, and they played. It's in San Francisco, correct? Yeah. So,
and you know what? I would have liked to see this too on the road. I would have liked to see Purdy in a difficult environment on the road against a good defense. How does he fare? And I'm not saying. Listen, I think a lot of Purdy's success is attributed to the offensive system he's in, but we also have to give him credit.
Yeah, he does.
In the system that he's playing, and he's been playing very well, and they're winning games. I mean, it's all he does is win games. Other than the Eagle game, which he got hurt, he's undefeated.
It's a great test for both teams because they've both been just running through the competition, except that weird game for Dallas for whatever reason. But the other 3 games, they killed New England, they killed the Jets, and they killed the Giants. And the 49ers have been killing everybody they play, but both these teams have not played teams that are up to their level, and they're about to face each other. So it's going to be a great game. The spread is, I believe, Niners 3.5.
Yeah, and I'm not making this pick on the pick segment. I think the Niners are going to win and cover. 2 things Dallas does not do well. They don't cover the pass over the middle very well, and they don't stop the run. That's again a problem. Even though they tried addressing it, they can't stop the run. Dallas. That's what.
Christian McCaffrey MVP. You think? I'm. This is a quarterback's league. At this point, though, you gotta at least throw the guy in the conversation. I mean, he has been unbelievable.
I want to get to a point, because I like, I mean,
it's been done before. Peterson.
No, it's a thought. It's a discussion. I'm not hating on you for it because he really has been that great. Yeah. I want to get to a point where we get some defensive linemen in this discussion.
Wow.
Like legit, we are in like the gold. We've mentioned this, the golden age of pass rushers.
Yeah, we really are.
I want to get one of these guys in this discussion because they affect a game and wreck a game just as any other player can. Not
non-quarterback,
not the quarterback.
Right.
So
that's why it really should just go to a quarterback every single time, and that's why we have Defensive Player of the Year and stuff like that. But you're right. I mean, sometimes you have years where quarterbacks, nobody really stands out from the crowd and has a great year. If we have a quarterback who leads the league in touchdowns this year with 35, but we have a Christian McCaffrey with 2,400 scrimmage yards and 25 touchdowns,
we should consider it.
Should consider it.
Yeah, and he's been impressive so far. He's been very impressive. So yeah, I like San Francisco in this game. I don't know who you like. Do you think Dallas covers?
9 straight. It's really tough.
9 straight wins and covers for San Francisco.
San Francisco, they're so good at home. They've owned the Cowboys. The smart play here is it's San Francisco. They're going to win the game.
It's definitely chalky. All right, let's get to some baseball here because there's a lot to discuss in the world of baseball. So let's start off here first, before we get to the playoffs, with Billy Eppler, who obviously is going to be second in charge with David Stearns taking over as president of baseball operations, but resigns Thursday afternoon. Very shocking. Now, it might not sound shocking because it's like, well, they did just hire somebody to go ahead of him, basically be his boss. But it was expected, since he got the job as general manager, that they were going to hire a president of baseball operations, and Billy Eppler would become number 2. He's been asked about it his entire tenure, basically, as general manager of the Mets. And it has been expected this was going to happen. And it was always rumored it was going to be David Stearns. And they reportedly have gotten along and worked together before. So it kind of seemed like, all right, Stearns is going to come in here, he's going to work with Eppler, and that's going to be it. He resigns today, and it was shocking across all of baseball. And when that happens, when it is shocking to everybody involved, that is when you know, like, okay, it was shocking. It wasn't expected by anybody. And they're saying now he's under investigation by Major League Baseball. The Mets used the phantom IL. They used the IL improperly. Yep. Somebody tipped Major League Baseball off. They were using a phantom IL, according to multiple reports. And, yeah. He resigns.
Sounds real dicey. Yeah, I mean, it's not shocking to hear that news after he resigns. You would think that something was up because, like you said, it makes sense if the guy was looking for other opportunity with, losing his job in terms of his
being the head man,
decision making and being the president of baseball operations. But for this to come out, I don't know. I'm interested to see if it comes out of how they were improperly using it, what players they were using. I'm not sure if that information has come out yet. I imagine not, and I imagine that it probably won't ever come out unless it gets leaked in some sort of way.
Yeah.
But, the Mets, this is a really important offseason for them, and one that's a little different than the ones we've seen in the past, where you've seen in the past, this is an important offseason for the Mets because let's go spend this money and let's go get Scherzer, let's go get Verlander, blah, 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 blah. This is a bit of a, okay, what direction are you going to pivot your franchise in now? And we know that Buck isn't coming back, and there's going to be a new manager coming in, so big all season for them. Obviously, Eppler's not going to be a part of it anymore, and I'm very interested to see. I know you're a big Craig Counsell guy. You're hoping that he comes over, but very interested to see who the next manager is going to be.
Yeah, I don't know why they didn't announce it today, actually.
Take it easy.
It was, well,
you want a manager after that choke job? You want that guy? You want that manager?
We're going to talk about something in a little bit, which kind of contradicts everything I say about, I wanting David Stearns and wanting Craig Counsell. We'll get to that in a little bit.
Can we agree on one thing, though?
What?
I think we overrate the manager a little bit in baseball. Like, they make the decisions with bringing a guy out of the bullpen, and it could be a very crucial decision.
I don't think they do anymore.
In terms, yeah, exactly. Who even knows that they do? But compared to, like, football and even basketball, I think it's probably the last on the list of most important.
It's about being the guy in the clubhouse, being the, bringing them together. I don't know about basketball. I don't know how much. Maybe it is a little bit more basketball.
It's a lot of scheming and putting your guys in the right offense.
It used to be.
Ask Phil Jackson, and he wasn't even the coach of the Knicks, but he loved to hire a coach that was going to run his triangle offense with the Knicks. How'd that friggin' work?
Obviously, football is number one. I think baseball used to be probably just as important, maybe even more important, manager-wise, than an NBA coach, but. Yeah, with the way they've just taken their power away, it's crazy. We'll get to that in a minute. I'm going to ask you a very big-time, intelligent question.
Oh, okay.
Not intelligent. It's a nice question.
That's rare out of you.
Wow. Baseball, playoffs, start Rangers, Rays, because that was kind of shocking. And the Rangers are doing it in ways which different than everybody else because – they're not as analytically driven than the other teams. They have Bruce Bochy. They let their starters go deep into games. By the way, shout out Jordan Montgomery, shout out Nathan Eovaldi, shout out Sonny Gray. Good job.
3 former Yankees right there.
Thanks, Cashman. Good job.
This series with the Orioles and the Rangers is one that I am extremely excited for.
Fascinated.
And I'll tell you right now, make it a bold statement, okay? Zoom in, clip this. Texas Rangers are going to the World Series.
I hope so.
Book it, lock it in. The Rangers are going to the World Series. This offense, the timely hitting for them, Corey Seager is a home run signing for this Rangers team. Semion's been a home run signing so far. He got off to a bad start last year in his first year. Both of them really were underwhelming going into their first years with the Rangers, but year 2, I mean, oh my God.
How about Evan Carter?
Evan Carter making diving plays, hitting home runs, all this stuff for the Rangers, just doing a fantastic job. Like you mentioned, Montgomery, starters going deep into the games. Really good team. Our boy Josh Young is back now. That's big. That's really big.
Thank God.
So this is going to be a really good series. They're going to have their good starters going, the Rangers here. We're going to see a little Max Scherzer. How you like that?
Yeah,
I like that.
I hope Scherzer doesn't pitch. Then I could root for them.
Right.
If Scherzer pitches, I can't root for them.
Aw.
But yeah, this is going to be interesting because I think the one question we've always had about the Orioles is do they have enough pitching?
Right.
And this is going to be a test. Kyle Brandish had a very nice season for them. But is he a number one that we trust going game 1 and 5 in a 5-game series? Game 1, 5, and 7 in a American League Championship series possibly. So we'll see. I'm excited to watch this Orioles team. I'll agree in terms of I think the Rangers are getting to the World Series. I think they're going to beat the Orioles. I think it's a 5-game series.
I wish these teams were matching up in the CS instead of the DS, to be honest with you.
This is going to be a really good series. So it's so interesting. Let me just pose this now, okay? Because I wanted to just ask this question later, but I'm not. The reason why I'm rooting for the Rangers is because they do things differently. I believe I am now going to be firm on this stance that analytics are ruining baseball in terms of the entertainment value of the game. Okay, the managers and the people in the front office making these decisions, just based on numbers, and it has nothing to do with the entertainment value, is going to eventually hurt baseball. I understand baseball had a great year ratings-wise. They had a ton of people at the ballpark this year, and I'm all for it. I love baseball. I want baseball to succeed, but I think they are going to hit a low point here. And by the way, if we're going to use starting pitchers the way we're using them, if you're going to pay Jose Barrios $131 million, Toronto Blue Jays, and whoever made that dumbass decision to take him out of the game in the 3rd inning after he was pitching pretty well, to then lose that game, you deserve to lose that game.
Yeah.
I can't stand this. You're going to have a market correction with the starting pitchers if we're going to treat them like this. So that's my feeling on analytics. I was never like, oh, old man, I hate analytics. You use numbers, obviously. But I think the extreme way these managers and front offices are using it now is hurting. It's currently hurting the entertainment value of this game.
I think that analytics are a great tool for building a team. I think looking at players' hard hit rate and their swing paths and all these great things that we have, these analytics, those are great measurements. And sabermetrics. I know sabermetrics are different from analytics, but in terms of that whole nerd thing, sabermetrics are great for analyzing a player's value. Using analytics in game situations, though, especially playoff game situations, not a good thing. And Michael Lombardi came on the Pat McAfee show and made this point. I thought it was great, and it applies to football and it applies to baseball. You take analytics and it gives you the percentage outcome of 100 or 1,000 different plays. And it tells you, go for it in this situation. Don't go for it in that situation.
Right.
Well, those analytics don't understand that. I'll talk about football first. Your left tackle's getting killed all game, or your receiver's not creating any separation, or your team hasn't been able to gain more than 2 yards on a running play. But the analytics say on 4th and 1 at your own 47-yard line, you should go for it. Well, if you count in those factors, you shouldn't go for it, and you should trust your gut. Same thing with baseball. Hey, Kevin Cash, Blake Snell's throwing 5 shutout innings, looking fantastic. I don't care if the 3rd time around the order is when he struggles. He's pitching lights out. This isn't you get 5 attempts at it. This is a one-time thing. Your season's on the line. You use your gut and say, listen, that's the best pitcher I have on my team, and he's pitching some of the best baseball I've seen out of him in a long time. I'm leaving him out there.
Jam,
you have to apply it that way.
I'm hypocritical because I want David Stearns to do whatever he has to do to build a sustainable winner for the New York Mets. And if that takes using analytics, then it takes using analytics. Yeah. But at the same time, I want to enjoy watching baseball. If Kodai Senga's in the 6th inning of a playoff game and he's dealing, but like you just mentioned, he's not good against this guy who's coming up, and he's not good against this guy who's also coming up in the inning. Let's take him out. Right. But if he's dealing that night, that's entertainment. I want to watch that guy. Yeah. So Bruce Bochy, he lets Nathan Eovaldi go deep in the game. He lets Jordan Montgomery go deep into that game 7 strong. The Rangers call up Evan Carter late in the year and is starting him in a playoff game. Yeah. These are moves that other teams may not be doing and making. And Bruce Bochy and the Rangers are doing it. So in that case, I am rooting for them.
And
just
these
like
are human beings that you're playing. These aren't robots out there that are playing baseball. These are human beings with human emotions, with human adrenaline and all this stuff in these major moments. You need to take that into account.
Even Dusty Baker. I mean, Dusty Baker, you think, the GM over there, Dana Brown, is going down to his office saying, you have to do this, you have to do this. Of course he's not.
And, as corny as it might sound, I'm one who said that when you look at Derek Jeter's numbers, the guy's a little bit overrated over the course of his career. He's not exactly as good of a player as we thought he was. He's definitely a Hall of Famer, but to put him in the top 30 players of all time is crazy. But one thing about Derek Jeter that might sound corny, but it's true, is the guy did have that X factor about him where in any given situation, all the big moments, you knew he was going to come up big. The analytics might have told you, oh, Derek Jeter doesn't hit this type of pitching well or this and that, and when a pitcher throws fastballs 60% of the times, he really struggles. It did not matter. That's just the way the guy was wired. Some people, when pressure situations come up, they thrive more than others, no matter if it's baseball, if it's work, if it's whatever aspect of life. Some people thrive under pressure and some people don't. That is where you have to just throw analytics out the window.
Carlos Correa is one of the best postseason performers we've ever seen.
Yep.
And he made a veteran play to pick off Vlad, him and Sonny Gray.
Can we talk about that?
Yeah.
That was the stupidest thing I maybe have ever seen in a playoff baseball game. You are the tying run, and you're not even the lead runner, and you're not exactly a freaking threat to steal a base or run around the base pass. I understand wanting to get a good secondary lead because you want to score on a base hit, but to get picked off when you're not even a lead runner and you're the tying run in an elimination series, I mean, seriously? That is a bonehead move.
Yeah.
They played, and not to mention Bo Bichette's up, your best hitter. The Blue Jays, and I'm not just trying to single the Blue Jays and the Rays out because they're in the Yankees division, but they both got embarrassed in the first round, and their seasons were worth nothing. The Rays had a defensive meltdown. They played awful in that series.
Rays were like the Mets. They had a division lead early. They lost it a little earlier than the Mets in 2022. But they were a disappointment. And the Blue Jays were doing it in different ways this season where they weren't this offensive juggernaut, but they played really good defense. The pitching was really good. And the pitching was good in this series too. What did they give up? 5 or 6 total runs in the 2 games? And they just falter. So tough to see the Jays out. They were my AL World Series picks.
Look at the Twins, though.
They're
the Twins winning playoff games.
Loving the Twinkies. Well, the Yankees aren't there. So
yeah, there you go.
They're like scared. The Yankees are there. They're like, oh, we can't win in front of Big Brother.
Doesn't matter. We'll run into them, so it doesn't matter.
No, thank God the Twins didn't have the run of the Yankees. Oh, my God. But, I like the Twins. I actually think the Twins are going to give it's all right.
This freaking thing's like bunching up.
I think they're going to give the Astros a run for their money in this series. And this goes 4 or 5 games.
I don't hate that.
They can pitch.
In that series last year, the Astros and the Mariners were right there. Like it seemed like they were going to upset them at one point.
Played them as tough as anybody's played them in the playoffs in a while.
And this isn't an Astros team that we've seen over the years. They're a little weaker than they've been the past couple of years, so they're susceptible to an upset here.
Yeah, we'll see. NL side. I mean, again, we kind of touched on the Brewers and Council choking a little bit, whatever. Yeah. Diamondbacks, big surprise. Don't want to spend too much time on this. Yeah. I think they're going to go down to the Dodgers here, but we've seen crazier things.
Divisional matchup.
Yeah, I thought this was going to be a easy done 2 games for the Brewers. It wasn't.
Yep.
But let's talk about Phil's Braves. Teased it before. Couldn't be more jealous of the Phillies and their fans. That crowd is unreal. They have a great time. They're so passionate. They have the best home field advantage. I have this stat loaded for me here to read. They have some of the best home field advantage. The Phillies are now 24-11 at Citizens Bank Park in the postseason. They passed the Mets at Shea Stadium, who were 26-13 for the highest winning percentage, minimum 20 games. So literally the best home field advantage.
That's really good for a playoff record to be 24-11.
Yeah, at Citizens Bank Park. So it's literally the best home field advantage in the history of baseball. Yep. And you could just tell how loud it gets there. By the way, Nola had a rough year. His stats in elimination games past 2 years, 27 innings, an ERA of like .38. It's under 1, some crazy crap like that.
He's one of the weirdest pitchers in baseball history, it seems like at this point. Year after year, his numbers don't look great, but you know the guy's a great pitcher, and then you look at his advanced stats and you say, wow, what a pitcher. He's got high WAR numbers. His FIP is always low. He's got a great ERA plus, and like it's just not making sense. They just time after time, it's all right. Well, I'll take a .3 ERA in elimination games. That's pretty freaking good.
I hate saying this about players and teams and things like that, and because there's really no stats to back it up. There's nothing to back it up. But the Phillies just look like a team that know how to win in the postseason.
Yep.
They have a lot of guys that do have some experience here. Schwarber has a lot of experience. Harper has some experience now. So these are guys that, have been here before.
Yeah. Harper's got all the freaking experience in the world. You know how many shortcomings he had with the Nationals back in in those years?
So they feel like a team that could win any season in the postseason, no matter what.
Yep.
They feel like they're underdogs. They're a wild card team. The Braves have obviously been this juggernaut all season long. All they've heard, Braves, Braves, Braves. You can't come out of the NL.
But it makes sense. Like, I'll applaud the Phillies pick here because it makes sense. Like, what do we always say about baseball? Just get in. Just get into the postseason and see what happens. It happens all the time. Happened with the Phillies last year. The Phillies, this is a divisional matchup. They've played them a bunch of times. The
Played
Braves,
them tough all year.
It always seems like when there's a team that is so good in the regular season, it's like they just don't get to the World Series. So the Braves are going to be really, really hard to stop, especially that offense. I mean, Marcell Ozuna even hit 40 freaking home runs.
crazy.
You're like, what the hell is that
They're
about?
going down. I'm telling you, they're going down.
But
they're going down.
you're here for they had 3 guys hit 40, correct? One guy hit 50.
Yeah.
Acuna, Ozuna, and Olsen.
Olsen at 50.
Yep.
It's unreal, but they're going down. I'm telling you, they're going down. And I want them to. I will go on. I'm on camera. I'm saying this. I want Philadelphia to win.
But
I'm rooting for the Phillies.
All right. I understand why, because the Braves have spoiled your division, NL East party. It's spoiled
My
your
life.
life, exactly, the past couple of years. But let's just say these teams both finished with the same exact record. Your Mets aren't involved here. You are more of a Phillies hater all time than a Braves hater, correct?
Yeah. If the Phillies did what the Braves have done to me, it would be even worse.
Right.
But the Braves have really hurt me. And the second they win this, the second the Phillies win this, and the Dodgers hopefully win that series, my Dodger hat will be out. And I'm going to be wearing that Dodger hat loud and proud.
If it's Orioles-Astros, I'm Orioles all the way.
Yeah.
Just letting you know. I don't care if they're in my division rival. I got nothing against the Orioles right now.
By the way,
I freaking hate the Astros.
I root for the O's.
Yeah, let's go. But Rangers first. Rangers to World Series. Let's do it.
I'm with
Rangers
that.
Phillies. That'd be fun.
As long as Scherzer's not pitching, sure.
That could be really fun.
No, I don't
What's
want
your
I don't want DeGrom or Scherzer to get a ring. So no.
What's
I'm out
your
on that.
big intelligent question that you want to ask?
Oh, it was the analytics thing. It was the analytics
that
ruining
was
the
underwhelming.
entertainment value of baseball. Oh, here's another one. Why doesn't Major League Baseball reseed? What the hell is with this?
Yeah.
It's the dumbest thing I've ever seen in my life. No, is there a reason?
It's simplified.
Can you think of like a logistical reason to like prove me wrong?
Not really.
Or is this the dumbest thing
Not
ever?
really. I think it is pretty dumb. You're right.
I'm always right.
And the one thing, this dude's unbelievable. The one thing that I have seen a lot being talked about is, should they go back to their one and done style?
Yes, that's the other thing I want to ask
I
you.
will say, for the entertainment value, the one and done is way better. Like, the stakes are way higher. The ratings are through the roof for those games, and those games are fun to watch. But number one, now you have one more playoff team. So do you have 2 one and done games in each league? So you have 4 one and done total. And the other thing is, the whole point of the best of 3 was to eliminate the whole random outcomes thing a little better and say it's baseball. You can't just say one game is going to decide the whole thing. So for the fairness of the league, I'd say 2 out of 3 is a little better.
Major League Baseball screwed themselves here because they not really screwed themselves. They got unlucky because when they added all these playoff teams, they ran the risk of getting matchups kind of like they had in the first round with the Marlins and the Diamondbacks and I can't really say that on the AL side, but because they've been competitive.
The
so
NL
far.
was really just gross.
The NL was gross, and they ran that risk. And even you didn't have the Angels, a big market team in the playoffs. They would like to have that. Obviously, they didn't have the Yankees. They didn't have the Mets. They didn't have the Padres.
It is a weird year for the playoffs.
So,
no Red Sox. There's
no
nobody
Red Sox.
really. It's the first year in I don't even know how long, like a really long time, the Yankees or the Red Sox are not in the playoffs.
By the way, well, we're obviously going to get to this later on in the offseason. I think there's a good chance Ohtani's coming to the East Coast. I am starting to believe again that there's a chance he comes to the Mets. I read another report today about your Sox. They might be getting them.
Sox. Okay.
Yeah, your boys over there in Boston.
Yeah, my boys, yeah.
They got a New Balance connection or something like that.
Oh, yeah,
and
there you go. Ohtani's
he's
this is reminding me of when John Jay is Manny Machado's cousin, and he signed with the White Sox. And they're like, well, Manny Machado's going to the White Sox.
No,
his cousin's the White Sox.
It was Yonder Alonso. It was the brother-in-law.
Right, yeah, something ridiculous.
Yes, Yonder Alonso was the brother-in-law.
Right.
No, I think there's a chance he's coming.
Whatever it was.
I think he's coming to the East Coast. I think he's coming.
That would be really cool. I mean,
would you be pissed if he was a Met?
No. Like, I would be jealous, but it'd be really cool to have him in New York.
I'd be very jealous if he was a Yankee. I don't think he's going to be a Yankee, but I'd
I don't
be
think
jealous.
so either. Yamamoto, Yankee.
If the Mets don't get
Yankee.
Ohtani, he's a Met.
Yankee.
No, I actually think Hal's going to spend there.
Yeah.
He has seen a lot, though.
He will.
That'll be interesting. I can't wait for MLB offseason talk.
Yeah. It's gonna be a very, very important offseason for both of our teams.
Yeah. I'm excited because they got a lot.
And there's going to be a lot of noise. Ohtani's on the market. That's already going to generate a lot of noise. So.
Yeah. All right. Next week, we'll get the more of the postseason. We'll be in the divisional round. Obviously, more NFL. We have a big announcement coming. Big-time announcement coming for the pod. Very excited about it. We'll drop it on social or the next episode next week. So that'll be next week, but big announcement. Next week, Jamie, anything you got to say? Slam the table first time tonight.
That was a great job. You did a really good job of that tonight. Appreciate the support from everybody. We're pumping out content for you guys as much as we can, enjoying it the whole time, of course. And looking forward to the weekend, man. I got a nice weekend planned for myself here, so looking forward to it.
Yeah, enjoy the playoff baseball and the NFL.
See you later.